Well, today's going to be a bit different. Today we're going to be analysing Cesc Fabregas' Como in their opening day win against Lazio 2-0. And with no disrespect intended to Lazio, it won't be so much a focus on the match and their performance. It will be more about Como and analysing them under Cesc Fabregas and seeing what makes them tick. Cesc Fabregas looking like one of the promising young managers in world football at the minute, with Como a very interesting project, being the richest club in Italy, being one of the richest clubs in the world, and those two blend of ideas and philosophies coming together to produce what is a thoroughly entertaining side, and one I'm going to be looking forward to watching as the season goes on, because I think there's definitely a lot of potential with the players, with the team, with Cesc Fabregas, and it's all about how it develops, I guess, and we see all the pitfalls and all the pros and cons that we can divulge from the season. But this is mostly going to be on the performance of the first match, plus bits I watched from last season. And before I get into the meat and potatoes, if you get to the end of the video and you enjoyed it, show it in the form of a like. It really helps the video out, really helps me get out there to more and more people through the algorithm, and it would just mean a great deal to me to know that people are watching and liking it. So if you could, that would be great. It's not a necessity, but it would just mean a lot to me. And now we're going to get into the video. In build-ups from goal kick, Como would play in their 4-2-3-1 or 2-4-4, very Roberto De Zerbi-esque, with Cunha and Perrone as the two pivots, in between the fullbacks with Nico Paz dropping into an attacking midfield position, along with Buildup. Wide players pinning the fullbacks back, maintaining a high position. The goalkeeper Buildup moving up and forming a part of the build-up. And Lazio, to be fair, made it easy for Como to play through. No real pressure on the ball. The occasional little piston press from the midfielder alongside Castellanos, if it's Deli-Bashiru or Guendouzi, to try and equal and turn it into a 4-4-2, but very little pressure on the ball, trying to stay in their shape. And so it gave license for Como to build up. You'd see Buildup and the centre-backs putting their foot on the ball, trying to draw in the press from Lazio to create space on the midfield. But that never came. Lazio weren't too interested in pressing. They also weren't too interested in chasing back either, but that's whatever. And so they were allowed to play. And before I get into the tactics, this is a pointless thing to interrupt this video for. How unbelievably beautiful is the view of the Como Stadium when watching games? I want to go to watch a Como game, and I'll probably end up not watching a single minute of football. I'll just be looking at the backdrop. It's sensational. There is nothing that's bad. Being a Como supporter must be one of the most lovely experiences on the planet right now. Anyway, I'll get back into the video. That just came into my head there, and I couldn't move on without saying it. And so Buildup moving up in between the centre-backs, as I say, putting his foot on the ball, looking to draw the press in, then maybe playing it to the likes of Cunha or to Perrone, or maybe even find balls to Vikas or to Paz. Maybe Castellanos would come across and they'd play simple passes to the centre-backs who would look to make angles to receive the ball, playing it back to Buildup, playing it across. One of the ways that Como can create angles as well is if Buildup drops back in here, you'll get Perrone and Cunha staggering their positions. So you'll get Perrone dropping in and Cunha just sort of maintaining a higher / more regular pivot position. Perrone doing this, dragging one of those midfielders up, and those staggered positions at an angle just create space in between Lazio midfielders where they can find angles for passes. So Guendouzi coming up here, Cunha maybe moving into this position here, dragging Deli-Bashiru or Cataldi into this position means that if Perrone can play this pass from Buildup to Kempf, then there's a pass that can go up into this area here, or Cancellieri coming across, maybe that pass doesn't go straight to Vikas, it goes to Vala, who can then drive forward from left back. And so these little staggering positions, these little ways they'll try and sucker the press on, is all to create cleaner passing lanes, to play out of danger and get past that initial line of press. Typically it'll be with a holding midfielder dropping, but there's many ways and setups and structures that Como can produce to play out. They're not I would say hampered by a specific formation. It's not Ruben Amorim ball where regardless you'll get the same formation at every minute of every game. They'll adapt depending on opposition, depending on the personnel they have available, and it's very fluid. Cesc Fabregas has spoken about in interviews about how he doesn't want to take the thought away from the player. He still wants to give them freedom to play on the pitch, and that is evident throughout the entirety of the play from Como. In the build-up and the main attacking play, you can really sense the level of freedom that players have to make decisions on and off the ball about positions to take up, about runs to make, and it's refreshing. It's lovely to see, and it adds to the entertainment value that Como absolutely have. And the one player that does exemplify that greatly, especially in these build-up structures, is Nico Paz, who has a very free role in this attacking midfield zone, taking his position from side to side to look for angles to receive the ball. Cataldi did initially try and stick close to him, but just lost him at every single opportunity, very Tom and Jerry. And so if maybe Como was struggling to play through, Paz could just make an angle out of nowhere and receive the ball. And to be fair, even when Cataldi did come over to try and pressure him, Paz is unbelievably press resistant. I've spoken about it in videos before. In whatever position he takes control of the ball, his touch, his physicality, uses his frame really well, taking the ball away from players, turning and getting into really promising positions where he can play forward, as he did for the first goal. Despite the fact that Duvicaz can drop in as a false nine, when Nico Paz got on the ball and turned, Duvicaz was very intelligent in knowing the signs for when to make those direct movements in behind the defensive line, and he picked it beautifully for the first goal. Paz turning, getting into a really good, promising position. Duvicaz making a fantastic run off the centre backs. Pass weighted perfectly. Duvicaz gets the goal to make it 1-0. And Paz just has that X factor in this Como team to provide that moment of magic to single-handedly win games at times. It's why he's been linked with the move back to Real Madrid. It's why he's been linked with the £70 million move to Spurs. There's a bit of something special in Paz. My biggest issue, and I've spoken about this before, that pass for the first goal was beautiful. I don't think he's enough of a killer for the quality he has. I think he should be punching teams more. I feel like sometimes he takes the safe and easy option when he has good and promising moments available to him. Too reliant on maybe the player showing for the ball. He has the quality. It's just maybe a lack of vision. I don't know. Maybe even a weird lack of confidence. But sometimes its decision making just lets down the unbelievable quality that he has. For him getting time and space in between the lines to enact his quality is a death sentence for most teams. And not just Nico Paz, but that left side can be a real threat for Como, especially, let's say, if Valla receives the ball here, manages to turn past Cancellieri. You'll then get Duvicaz showing for the ball in this left side. And this left overload was key to the success of Como in this game. It was their most used side, I would say. In fact, I don't think Nico Paz touched the ball that much in the first half. But that left side was key. The use of third man runs on this side, and in fact, not just on this side, but throughout the game, is key. Again, allowing that freedom to make movements off the ball. But let's say Valla receiving the ball, turning. Rodriguez is already looking to attack that left hand side with Lazzari. Cataldi can't come across because he's too focused on Nico Paz. The centre backs for Lazio did a terrible job of coming out of the defensive line to engage when they really should have. So at points when that midfield line was bypassed for Lazio, the centre backs didn't do enough to engage and cover without any real threat in behind either. So Valla turning, moving up the pitch, Rodriguez making the run. The Vicas showing for the ball means that the Vicas can get the ball and look to play Rodriguez in. All the meanwhile, Vala's still continuing his run off of the Vicas into a zone that's not occupied by Rodriguez. So there's threat all over the place for this Lazio team to have to deal with runners and freedom to move into space. The only thing is sometimes the nature of the game is at a frantic one, so the composure to play the perfect pinpoint pass for the run while running at full speed yourself isn't always the easiest thing to do, but they can create openings through this unpredictability of the movements and the link-up play and the relationism between players in certain zones. But that left side, Duvicaz doing fantastically in this situation to link up. Also, if the play on the left side wasn't open, had no problem showing his composure and his technique to turn back inside, take it in the middle of the pitch, with maybe Paz looking to make movements in this area here, drawing that defensive line over, creating space on the right-hand side. They could play that pass into Voivoda, I believe that's how it's pronounced, and they can attack down that way. Duvicaz was, I thought, sensational. I don't know much about him. I don't know how much he'll play this season, considering they signed Alvaro Morata, but I thought he was brilliant in this game and showed a lot of mental and technical quality to play that false nine role and still maintain a goal threat, which he did for the first goal. So couldn't speak highly enough about his performance. Como's shape would be a sort of 2-3-2-3, but there was the option for versatility, for rotations and fluid movements from players. As much as the 2-3-2-3 was the most noticeable structure that I could glean, it still wasn't fixed to that, and you could still find players overloading central areas, making movements. Valla on this left-hand side moving into the half space with Duvicaz. Then you'd maybe get Rodriguez dropping in. There's players that are comfortable all over the place of taking up positions that maybe aren't conventional to what you would expect of their position is, but there has to be a level of understanding that when movements are made from players, that a position needs to be taken up. So Valla making this movement in, maybe dragging Cancellieri, means that Rodriguez can drop into this position in the left-back area, reforming that 2-3-2-3. But then there's still room in the left midfield position or left wing position that needs to be filled, well then Vala can continue his run out there. Duvicaz in this area here can do that. Paz can move up into the attack midfield position, and Cunha can make movements into that forward line. So it's fluid, open to any sort of movement. As I say, the formation generally has a bit of fixation to it, although not strict and rigidly. The players you can find in certain positions are not fixed at all. And you'll get movements from players that you wouldn't expect from deeper areas, third man runs to try and receive the ball, especially from Ramon on this right hand side. I've rolled my R a bit there, who could play the ball into a player, let's say Voivoda here or Cunha, and continue his run. They had freedom if there was space to attack, let's say the centre back and the midfielder coming in here. But Ramon's played that pass, he can make that movement into the half space to receive it back. If they could find that opening to play it to him, he could get into the box without really being tracked, because who's going to track him from that position and get a shot away? So again, it just adds to what I was saying before, how Cesc Fabregas allows his players to play with freedom to move and find positions and attack space that you normally wouldn't see in a general footballing philosophy nowadays. And it's all about overloading and making vertical runs in the centre of the pitch. They will look to generally congest that area with these players moving in and constantly moving, constantly creating angles that they can use to tear apart an opponent's shape in the middle, and also look for those vertical movements that they can play through balls to. Let's say Nico Paz making this movement here, Duvicaz then playing that ball through. They're not just a team that create through the wide areas and wide overloads, although that is a quality that they possess. Because if they can't break through the central structure of a team, then there's space out wide that can be created and they can get it to the wingers. But will happily play through centrally, play through balls, get players into really good positions, and hopefully finish off that way. Short, simple passes. They never really go direct unless they know the ball's going to feet. And it's such a lovely, refreshing bit of football to watch. So much freedom, so much fun to watch. And I will definitely be tuning into more Como games this season. One thing I will say, fantastic counter press. As soon as they lose the ball in situations, they will converge on the player. So let's just say this player wins the ball here. Let's say that in this position, this translated to a game, Duvicaz, Paz, and Peroni are the three players closest to him. Well, they will quickly smother him as soon as they lose the ball, trying to win it back, and they turn over possession so many times doing this, especially in this game. It felt like they recycled back possession in the Lazio half so many times through just a brilliant counter press, and Lazio couldn't get out. They were just suffocated. And fantastically implemented. It shows great levels of fitness, great levels of energy, and that's a credit to the coaching staff as well as the players. Helps that a lot of them are younger, so they just have that extra level of energy that experienced heads wouldn't, and it's paid dividends for this style to work in the way it has in this Lazio game. So when Lazio are on the ball, Como pressed them high, going man for man mostly, that could transition into full man to man, and they pushed up high. The defensive line was very high, and Lazio couldn't play out. I think in the end, Como had something like 75%, 70% possession. And Lazio just could not get a foothold in the game. They were very rigid in their position, so they weren't moving a lot to create openings. But it would be with Rodriguez and Voivoda on the fullbacks, Duvicaz from centre-back to centre-back with goalkeeper as well, Nico Paz on Cataldi, and Cunha and Peroni on the two holding midfielders. You'd get Kempf and Ramon initially on the striker, Castellanos with Van der Bremt, and Valle on the two wingers. But that could engage into a higher press. Let's say if Duvicaz can get across to Gila, then you get Rodriguez pressing up from Lazaro, you get Vala coming up from this position here, and then Kempf moving across. Again, adding to their defensive quality and their high press and their ability to turn over possession high up, and they were brilliant at it. Again, created a few chances this way as well, just through that energy and the defensive discipline that comes with it. It can't just be high energy, you need to be disciplined with energy. And even if it wasn't Vala maybe coming into this position, let's just say if it was Peroni moving across or whoever, or maybe it was one of them moving up into the centre-back Paz with Peroni dropping on, then you get Kempf equaling the numbers in midfield. And Kempf and Ramon, I feel so pretentious saying it that way, I thought were a fantastic balance of a centre-back pairing. You get the stopper and dropper, with Kempf engaging in this position here, getting close and equaling any numerical disadvantage Como may have had, with the Ramon ready to drop in and sweep up in behind and protect against the run of Castellanos, who would look to maybe make those movements into space that had been left behind. And I thought they both did their jobs really, really well. Real complementary centre-back pairing. Ramon, I know, came from Real Madrid and has a lot of hype around him. And again, on the ball, off the ball, I thought he excelled in both areas of the game. The only issue is Highline can be caught. Horrifically lucky to end up with a clean sheet because of the. I mean, I don't even think that should be counted as an offside, but the mere centimetres that Castellanos was offside by was frightening, and just it takes one little bit of a movement in a high line against a team that try and play an offside trap, and you can get caught. It's a tale as old as time. So they will concede chances, will concede goals that way. But when you play with the high energy, when you play with the goal threat they do, you can argue it's a risk worth taking, and it was in this game. Paid off just about. They're young as well, so they'll still be prone to little errors of judgment and issues with their decision making, but can be forgiven. And to be fair, it only adds to the excitement factor, not take away from it. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's anything that I've forgotten to talk about, anything you want to mention in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and in a bit, lads.